It's 7v7 soccer. Smaller the pitch, faster the action. The world's elite soccer clubs compete for their share of a massive $5 million prize. Catch World Sevens on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max December 5th through the 7th.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Jay Kelly, the new film from Academy Award nominee Noah Baumbach. George Clooney stars as an actor confronting his past and present on a journey of self-discovery, alongside Adam Sandler as his devoted manager. Critics are calling it a declaration of love to the chaotic art of filmmaking, with the Wall Street Journal praising it as a transcendent comedy drama. Watch Jay Kelly December 5th, only on Netflix.
Hello, family. I'm Janaya Future Khan, and this is Dark Woke. Just before we hit it, I want to say thank you to all the listeners out there, and a special shout out to the supporters who make this show possible. It truly means the world to me. If you'd like to become a member, our Patreon is linked in the episode right up below. This is me pretending to be normal because Pete Hegseth has the nuclear codes. I just need us to understand that an alcoholic has the nuclear codes and is just willy-nilly like firing rockets and missiles at random fishermen in international waters. And there doesn't seem to be any kind of intervention or recourse or accountability. In fact, the Washington Post is currently in trouble with the Trump administration because they reported on it accurately. Does that sound like free speech to you? It doesn't sound like free speech to me. It doesn't sound like anything other than corruption, lies, manipulation, deceit, murder. Is there going to be a reckoning? That's the question that I have now. In watching what's been going on, though, in so many ways, it's happening. It's not happening to the people that it needs to happen to yet. But there is a kind of reckoning. So we're going to be following up on Piers Morgan, our little tale of two Pierses. Piers with two Piers. And you've got Piers Morgan, UK Tucker Carlson, and then you got Tucker Carlson, who's American Tucker Carlson. There is no American Piers Morgan. You might have to read a little bit. Not a lot, though. Maybe you'd have to read like several years ago. I will make a case, though, for why I kind of mess with him. And it's not like I'm buddy-buddy, but I do mess with him. We need to be able to actually have conversations. So we're going to be breaking down that clusterfuck of an interaction. But I got some quick hits for you. I don't know how we're going to get through it. But we have, before that, a whole assassination, heavy bunny ears, y'all. An assassination attempt on Candace Owens as reported by Candace Owens. No one else, not a single other person, but Candace Owens is certain that she's going through this. We're also going to be very, very quickly, concisely, but ever so meaningfully. And to be honest, have you ever heard me say anything concisely? On this professor, who is a transgender professor in Oklahoma that was suspended for failing an essay that was a failure of an essay. I can't wait to tell you about it because somehow this has become the fault of trans people. And once again, we're back in this ideological debate. And let me tell you something. When we talk feminism, I always want us to remember something. Some of these bitches are dumb. I need us to remember that. You throw the raft, but sometimes you just got to keep it moving. They're just not all coming. It's almost as if the history and the future of America is predicated on a subset, a population of whites, and getting them aligned and on board all the time. Turns out if you rig a system, it might actually start to decline on its own, but we'll get there. I need to hit you with this Candace Owens shit because it's tied in to this weird, dumb girl that's become a huge, sensational, and I would say national story. I was going to say international, but I'm like, it's not that good. You will, if you're watching me, you will see me constantly look over to the left because Corey's in the room with me. And I just keep staring at him. I need to know if I'm funny. Did you hear him laugh? Good. I need to know if I'm funny. And there was Donald Trump. Okay. And I came across this clip of him. He's just like, basically, he said the equivalent of like, no, I am a smart. I took, I said, I'll take the test. And I'm a really smart guy. I'm so intelligent, just like a baby. And it made me realize something. Like the so-called leader of the free world is like if Boss Baby transitioned into a dementia-having homunculus with fascistic tendencies that wears oversized brioni and rapes. I don't know how else to say it. That's who runs America. I don't understand. I don't understand it. You actually have cool shit to go off of, and now we're just following up on yesterday's episode. Babies, I promise you part 2, and we're about to hit it. We are about to go into, I need you to brace yourself because you're gonna be listening to one white man with a swoop for hair. Just a swoop to keep the little lizard brain warm. That's Tucker Carlson. So we have a Tucker Carlson and we have a Piers Morgan, right? Who is in so many ways the Tucker Carlson of England. But here's the thing. Piers Morgan is not the equivalent to Tucker Carlson because it is a juxtaposition that demonstrates just how unhinged and hysterical America has become. Is that historically a misogynist term? Yes, it is. And I think it's about time that we apply it to what Tucker Carlson loves to discuss as the decline of Western civilization. So, oh yes, we're going to be talking about that and disputing that. And it's so fascinating to see the England versus the United States, fact versus fallacy. And in too many occasions, fallacy versus fallacy. I'm just like, just suck each other's dick. If it's gonna be a fallacy, just give us fellatio. Just give us a show, babes. Give us a show. You've been saying the same things for years. Now, I have a much more nuanced take than I am presenting on both of them. This is going to be good. I really wanted to get into it yesterday, but y'all know I love a good yap. Before we jump into it, though, it felt prudent to talk about what has been happening at one university in Oklahoma. I didn't think I'd even say that word unless I was talking about some kind of massacre, racist massacre, or a sporting event. I did not expect to have to read one of the worst essays I have ever read in my life because a basic bitch decided that she had something to say. What's going on in the education system and in America? It's all just coming to a head, and it's the ugliest pimple in the world. The uglies are running our country and ruining our good time. God damn it. Mary Oliver would be furious. What do you mean? What are we going to do with our one precious life? Fight the power, I guess. I guess we're going to fight the power, you guys. Okay. Let me hit this shit for you. Okay. Because what we're about to unleash in this story is not transphobia in the ivory tower. You know what I mean? That's the place where the transgenders fled to. And then some of them came back with their stupid literature. I love literature. Don't listen to me. But it's what they did with it and they brought it in. But that is a gripe for another day. This is what happened. Okay. So gender class. Do you know when you take a class at school, this might be shocking, right? But when you take a class in a educational setting, you are going to have to read things, right? And if you're really lucky, after you read the thing, you make an argument about the thing that you read. Now, you might make a comparison between several pieces. You might decide, okay, you know what? I actually don't agree with the premise that's there. And the thing that you have to do as a student in educational settings is prove your point, right? How do you prove your point? It's really simple. You just look up data. You just got to look it up, y'all. That's all you got to do. I would say that that's pretty standard. Yes. Okay, great. So ask me why. That's exactly what happens. And this professor who is a transgender. So we have a transgender professor who goes by she and they, right? You have a student, Samantha K, who is honestly Veronica to the fucking, Riley Gaines. That is like, you got dumb, evil Betty and evil Veronica, right? Just another fucking grift. So she writes a paper and the paper quotes and cites the Bible and nothing else. I use the term gender essentialism, but there's not a lot of 3-syllable words in there. And you can have wonderful writing without 3-syllable words. It's just that much like acetaminophen, words that are complicated Instead, you get the most reduced version of the most reduced version of the most reduced version presented as a take. And that has really been the play of the American right. So what happens? She writes this paper, the professor fails her. The professor says, you failed because you didn't cite anything beyond the Bible. This person decides that she's going to make us think about it. And yes, I have paragraphs to read to you. She decides she's going to make us think about it. And guess who got suspended? The professor. The professor got suspended for doing her fucking job. Their job, her job, doesn't matter. Like, you're at school for you, bitch. You're not at school to get to know the professor. Make your argument, make it well. Isn't that what we should be doing? But don't let me yap at you. Let me tell you what happened. Of course, the New York Post is already on this, right? And I have some additional context, but I'd love to just read to you because I can't just decide that what's being said on the internet is true. I've got to go and look at these pieces myself. I would love to read to you full paragraphs of this essay that failed and the professor's response to it. Okay. So again, what this person, Samantha K, is arguing is for a kind of gender essentialism, but has no idea what she's doing. This is it. This is the entire thing. Okay. The article, she's referencing the article that they were meant to read and then create an argument around. This article was very thought-provoking and caused me to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and the role it plays in our society. The article discussed Piers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I do not necessarily see this as a problem. I am reading this exactly as it is. God made male and female and made us differently from each other on purpose and for a purpose. Okay, we're going creationism. All good. I'm sure you could find some interesting ways and places and to make your argument interesting. Is that what this person does? No, it's just vibes. It's not even vibes. It's like the burp of a LaCroix. It's the flavor of a flavor of a flavor mixed in with just bad juices inside. You understand what I'm saying? God is very intentional with what he makes. And I believe trying to change that would only do more harm. What harm was being done, by the way? I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it does get infuriating in its simplicity. Women naturally want to do womanly things. Somebody fucking call the Pulitzer right now. Women naturally want to do womanly things. Incredible stuff. I know one 9-year-old who would think that this sentence was subpar, for being honest. He would absolutely think the sentence was subpar. But here's my favorite part. No, you guys, you didn't hear the whole argument. Women naturally want to do womanly things because God created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. Oh my God. And you want to know something? There's nothing, go be a trad wife. You still have to know how to write an essay. This isn't even an op-ed. There's a standard to that. You still have to make a strong argument or a case. This is not even a good diary entry. No, but maybe you didn't hear the whole argument, y'all. That's could be it. The same goes for men. Great. The same goes for men. God created men in the image of his courage and strength, and he created women in the image of his beauty. He intentionally created women differently than men, and we should live our lives with that in mind. I'm only going to read you a little bit more. It is frustrating to me. It is frustrating. Like, just, do you know what an apostrophe is? But here's the thing. It's just the grammar, the punctuation, it's all stressing me out. It is frustrating to me that when I read articles like this and discussion posts from my classmates of so many people trying to conform to the same mundane opinion, of which has not been clearly referenced or articulated, so they do not step on people's toes. I think that is a cowardly and insincere way to live. It is important to use the freedom of speech we have been given in this country, not historically accurate at all. You were not given it in this country at the fuck all. Lefties, anti-war activists, labor unionists and labor activists, they're responsible for the fact that we have weekends. They're why, nignogs weren't falling off of bridges while they were making them, right? And when Woodrow Wilson came out with the Sedition Act and all these other things, go ahead and read The Brothers if you want more information, but this is all very easily Googleable. You will know that they tried to eliminate freedom of expression because, of course, Bolshevism was happening in Russia. People felt some kind of way about that in America. Woodrow said, I don't want none of that sauce coming over here. Okay, we already got monkeys in this country because that's how he felt about black people. I'm not trying to do this other thing. So anybody who criticizes this war that we're doing or how we approach it, they're gone. That was then developed into more of a sedition act. Okay. This one led to the arrest of around 2,000 people, and it included any anti war positions and any criticism of the government. It was only because of the backlash of this and because of organizers and normal, everyday, fucking amazing, regular people that journalists, I'm like, I'd be forgetting that these things were around in like the 30s because it just seems like a very dirty time. But they definitely had journalists because there's so many things written. So reporters, they all came and pushed the good ones, and boom, we end up with free speech protections. That's why it's called an amendment, simple bitch. If the thing was perfect, right? If it was just great as it is, if we didn't evolve or need to, there wouldn't be amendments. But let me let that conversation cook for the clips I'm about to hit you with, because I can't spend too much more time reading this nonsense. I'm going to tell you, right? I think you got there's a lot of, she uses stereotypes, but then puts them in quotes, but isn't quoting where it's, I can't tell if it's stereotypes, like that's not real, I'm being sarcastic, or if it's a quote, because she uses it intermittently so often. I have no idea what's been going on. I think you can say that this is not a strong paper. It only references the Bible and doesn't actually even quote it directly. It just says, and God says this. It'd be like me saying, God says he loves orange juice. And in the Bible, juice is a frequent theme. That's how stupid this is. This is a failing paper by any metric, let alone in post-secondary. I'm like, can anybody get into the University of Oklahoma? Is it Everest? Is the University of Oklahoma Everest? And you want to know something? I wouldn't be pushing on this university at all. It is not their fault that they got a dummy. You want to know my problem is? They folded like a fucking lawn chair under pressure. Why is there pressure? Well, guess who decided to champion this cause? Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA. You haven't heard of them in a minute, and that's because they have been in a shitstorm of controversy post the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Remember when Charlie Kirk was turned into a juice box? I should Capri Sun. That's softer. Capri Sun. Post is Capri Sun ascension or descent, depending on what you believe. Turning Point USA has been in a fucking shitstorm because, as we went through on this episode where we talked through the Charlie Kirk stuff, it was rampant with racism, anti-Semitism, and just about every kind of ugly thing you can imagine. Power struggles. Just nonsense. Just a bunch of weird khaki-wearing white boys. Just, I don't know what they were on. But it got out. All of their shit got exposed. There's so much more, of course, but the comments, the anti-Semitism, so much so that the right started to get a little bit freaky. Who on the right? Ben Shapiro, babies. Ben Shapiro seems to suddenly be concerned about the anti-Semitism that he helped to usher into the American zeitgeist, right? By getting into fucking bed with Nazis. That turned out not to be the best play. It's almost as if when you take the brakes off of hatred, it's not just going to stop because you fucking fist pumped it 2 weeks ago. You fucking loser. You're not even cool. You're an odious little gremlin. But the point is now the right's all concerned that they have an anti-Semitism problem. And Turning Point USA has become a fucking joke since then, right? So they need something. They need something, anything. We're talking about resignations. We're talking about exposés. We're talking about betrayals. And I would say of Shakespearean note, but I'm going to say these types of betrayals and who's writing these stories, it's got to be Samantha Kay, because these are not good stories. And so they've been blasting it everywhere, trying to make this a huge story. What they didn't quite comprehend is that this is a terrible fucking paper. This is just not a good fucking paper. But think about the administration we're in. Think about this moment. This is not McCarthyism. This is something else. This is called fascism. This is authoritarianism. Think about the fact that we don't even have press in the White House. They're not allowed there lest they criticize the government. I mean, we're at a point, right? And I do not respect the university for suspending this person. I really don't. At the same time, I'm like, we have bigger fish to fry. I like a local fight. So they needed a win and they tried to invent this as one. And I need you to think about how damn bad you got to be. There's something fascinating about this. Why are they always dummies? Like, I know, but like, think about Chaya Raycheck, right? Libs of TikTok. Remember that one who constantly, endlessly just posts about trans people, right? And granted, it's always the corniest, looniest ones. Like, they don't got one black friend because I'm going to tell you something. We would not have let you leave the house that way. You know what I mean? You got to care about certain things, like whether you're funky. You know what I mean? Or whether the dye job is good. There's just a little bit of what we call brought up C. They don't have that, right? So I get it. Sometimes our folks be looking a little cartoonish, but that's not what Libs of TikTok does. No, it is 100% driven by a profit incentive to attack trans folks because it was a lightning rod issue. What was uncovered, thanks to Taylor Lorenz, who a lot of people can't stand for pretty valid reasons, to be honest. But you can't hate on the girl. Like, she will fight for the things that she believes in, and she goes hard, and she does good journalism when she does it. When she's an influencer is when she gets weird, right? She exposed Chaya Raycheck, her face, everything else. Chaya Raycheck then tried to say that she was concerned about her safety. The same schools with children have been like, these kids went through bomb threats because of posts that Raycheck made, and to find out that she was a simple bitch was so unacceptable. So what's happened since then? We had Simple Bitch 1, then Simple Bitch 2 with Riley Gaines, right? Who, it turns out, as we would discover weeks later, that she just sucked at swimming. Like, no, it wasn't Leah Thomas's gigantic shoulders or a wide wingspan or whatever logic you used. She was just better than your mid and not even good enough to be the best one. Like, we really got to just deal with this sports thing, but we'll get there. Don't you worry about it. That's another fight for another day. My point is, they're down bad. This is a stretch. What we have to do is not play into this by turning it into the sensation that they need it to be, the spectacle that they need it to be. Go ahead and find you the email of the professor and show some love. But please, we have to do this thing. We got to stop flexing. Like, I'm posting about this because this is how you know I am who I am. No, we're not playing into the bullshit. I'm going to tell you why. And then we're going to move into the bulk of the matter, right? So the professor responds and basically says real clearly, look, you just didn't do the assignment. There's no empirical data there. But then goes on to say, you know, some of the things he said they were offensive. I don't care about that. We really have to stop. Why did you need to say that? Was that the reason why it got the grade? I'm not suggesting that we can't say certain things. I'm saying that there's a power dynamic here. I'm not sure that there's an appreciation for it. Maybe I'm extremely, extremely precise about my word choice. I didn't read anything offensive. Granted, that's not the entire paper. I can't imagine that there's much more, right? It was offensively bad. But was that, I always say, when you're trying to make a case, boom, 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 boom. Can anybody properly respond to that? And what do people walk away with? No, focus on your strongest point, your absolute strongest point, and then use a little bit of scaffolding on your way out. So it's like you've already brought this home and now you're just finishing the roof. That's how we have to approach these things and stop using, emotion or sensibility as a means of regulating word choice or behavior, right? Like, that is the liberal standard. It's I'm offended by this. I find this offensive. And therefore this should not happen. Or this is offensive because these people are marginalized. I'm going to tell you something, as we are about to uncover now. This is a great fucking segue, right? The power structures that have shaped our 20th century existences have rapidly shifted in the 21st century. We're moving into deeper concentrations of power than we've really ever known. And the number of people disenfranchised has increased exponentially. Like, we are literally the masses, and we have all the same social ills and troubles and the racism and the blah, blah. We have all the bullshit. But part of the reason why the billionaire class is working so fucking hard is because they know that the second that we actually stop playing this culture world bullshit that they keep throwing at us and start to see each other, it's over for them. So they're in a mad grab. He's whining. I don't know what to do. I'm going to put him in his crate. I can't fucking... But now I'm just going to talk the shit on my thing. And then I'm going to move into... And then we can just hit the clips immediately, okay? Okay, Okay, here we go. But I'm going to hit this first. But here's my real beef, right? You worried about transgenders? You worried about gender right now? Right? Samantha K, the girl who wrote the absolute most embarrassing essay of all time. You had one job, bitch. Some citations. That's all you needed to do. You didn't do any of it. You don't even believe in your own position enough to do some research. You're worried about gender wars and gender roles right now, babe. That's what we're doing. I'm going to tell you something. That girl, Samantha K, you about as smart as a bag of rocks in a dress with a bad wig on and poorly drawn on eyebrows. Like, you should actually talk to the dolls to figure out how to get your shit straight. Because I don't know. I don't know what happened to you. Okay? But I'm going to tell you something, and this may be helpful. Reading captions on videos that you scroll through, right? In your brain rot, weird gender scenario where there's this imagined thing that's persecuting you. Babe, you don't read. You don't read. You fuck. Bitch ass. Again, though, I can blame him, but it's also because I just riff. I'm better when I just riff. But I wrote these out because I'm unpracticed, and now I'm being a slave to it too much. I wouldn't typically have this problem, but I haven't slept at all. So I'm just gonna go fast. Here we go. I'm gonna just say something though to Samantha K, okay? The girl who wrote one of the worst essays I've ever read. All you had to do was make some citations. Like, you just had to ask AI, right? And this is the problem. You're worried about gender roles and gender wars. Babe, you need to be worried about neuroplasticity. That's your thing, right? You need to be worried about your neuroplasticity, because I'm just going to tell you right now, you want to know who wrote this paper? A bag of rocks dressed like a college girl with a bad wig and poorly drawn on eyebrows. Like, do you want to know something? You got to be smart, babe. You got to read. And I'm not just talking about the captions, right, that you put together on CapCut for your shitty videos. No, babe. I'd say subtitles, but that's lost in translation for you. No, you got to go out into the world and be curious. If you had approached this paper with curiosity, I don't give a shit what you believe. I really don't. I just need to read good things, right? That was just slop. It was slop. That not even the pigs would eat. I'm going to tell you something, all right? You need neuroplasticity. You need brain food. No, cutting out a lot of it. Let me cut out a lot of it. I got to cut out a lot of it. There's, look at this. I've never done this. This is an entire fucking paragraph. This is not funny. I got it. Let me tell you something. Samantha K, the girl who wrote the terrible paper at Oklahoma University and is now acting as if she's persecuted and she's being championed by Turning Point USA, which, what is that without the Capri Sun that used to lead them? My apologies. In his last moments, it was an ode to juice boxes, Charlie Kirk, R.I.P. They needed a win, and they chose this. You down bad, baby. I'm going to tell you something, Samantha K. Girl, you need to read. You don't got no neuroplasticity. There's a Lego block in your head. There's no movement happening there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's a concrete block where your brain ought to be. You are a mob boss's dream. You are the reason why we have never been able to find Jimmy Hoffa. That's the kind of granite you got going on there, babe. Right? Just rigid. They put you down, your brain just plummets. It just plummets, bottom of the ocean type shit. Listen, I'm not trying to say that you're stupid. I'm just trying to say that you're not smart. And maybe this is beyond you, because I'm going to tell you something. If we had the kind of granite available that you got going on in your brain, we never would have had a Katrina, baby. That shit's so hard up there in your brain. The levees would have been fine. We wouldn't have had a Katrina if you were there. That's how hard-headed you are, but you call that foreplay. My bad. This is the perfect segue to get into part deux of Piers versus Tucker Carlson. Really odd because it's white nationalism versus white nationalism. Which one is better? What's the best white nationalism? So we're going to pay attention to the arguments, what is being asserted, what's not being said, and what opportunities were missed. What you're going to hear is a lot of logical and anecdotal fallacies. It seems to be something that these folks absolutely love to use. Why don't we hit the first one? You're about to hear Tucker Carlson, right? So Piers Morgan goes on Tucker Carlson's show. That's the setting. This clip is, you're going to love this. Tucker essentially voicing his concern for the fact that London ain't as white as it used to be.
This was not a communist country, but I'm just saying Britain voluntarily joined the war. It was a war that you were not involved in and you got in. But my question is, why did it destroy Britain? I don't understand. As the victor nation.
It didn't destroy Britain.
Well, look outside.
Look outside.
We're in the city of London.
Hang on. There's Tower Bridge. It's the Tower of London. Magnificent.
Well, it changed London.
Why do you look at this and see a wrecked country? I don't.
Well, I don't see an English country. So we're in the city of London now.
What do you mean there? What do you mean by that?
It's not. Well, people whose ancestors built Stonehenge are not here anymore. So the city of London is 36% white, and that's happened in the last, 40 years.
But England is about 70% white.
England.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it was 99% in 1945.
Okay, so we've evolved.
Pause. Right? Do you see what Tucker is trying to do? I'm asserting my point of view, right? I'm pulling certain data to make the point I want to make, which is that Western culture is in peril. And I'm going to choose random moments in history to make that case. What's fascinating is you're hearing the American hysteria that white men have embodied, right? So unlike the stoicism of Western culture, right? In the good old days when they were still writing and reading and doing philosophy. That wasn't just my opinion, and I have an opinion. I'm Aristotle. I'm going to tell you something. When Piers said, yeah, we evolved. It evolved. I was like, you know what? Okay. Do you want to know what you're seeing here? I'm going to let it go because there's a lot to unpack, but you want to know what you're seeing here? It's what happens when hysteria meets ease. Dr. Wolf, one of the, penultimate economist professors at Harvard, discussed the fact that Britain was no longer the superpower in the world that it was before, right? It's still there. It's still there. So when Piers Morgan says, look out the window, what are you talking about? It is a pushback against the reality that Tucker Carlson is trying to assert as factual. The question is, can Piers Morgan keep up, or does he want to keep up with where we go next?
We're on the way to becoming the minority in the country. So no one wants to say that. I think you can get arrested for saying that here.
Well,
that's not white supremacy. This is the indigenous population of the country.
Well, it's a statistical fact that I think by 2100, we will be a minority white country.
2063 as of today.
Well, I've read a bit later.
But these are dynamic numbers, so they change.
Yeah, but here's my question for you. So what?
Well, let me refer to the beginning of our conversation when you said that the people who live in a country define the character of that country. And then you said, yes, all the things for which we were famous and in which we had pride, like our stoicism, our concern for others, our tidiness, the cleanest country in the world now. It's pretty filthy.
Whoa. London was fucking the pits. Are we fucking kidding? You were walking around covered in filth. Can people read a goddamn book? How you think the bubonic plague got around the way it did? Right? You think the rats were fucking walking around with fucking top hats and fucking monocles knocking on the door being like, oh, dearie, do let me. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're trying to tell me that in the 30s and 40s and all this shit, before we built the kinds of modern infrastructure and removal of filth, and when we, like, I don't even, this is so absurd. I barely know how to wrap my head around it. And there were so many points. There were so many points, but what you're going to start to see is the stretching. Feel it, right? It's both Tucker trying to stretch to do the mental gymnastics required to make his arguments cogent and make sense. But it's also the stretch of him trying to push and assert his beliefs on Piers Morgan.
New people moving there. You said that. I mean, you're the racist, not me. So I'm just using the parameters that you said.
I did not say that was down to
no. You didn't say you didn't.
White people.
This right here. With somebody, but do you see this right here? Do you remember this? It's called peer pressure, right? You're the racist, not me. I'm gonna move the goalpost here. So now if you come here, as long as you stay behind, like in front of the racist thing, you're good. I need you to buy into this. You got to buy into this because I've now given you statistics and data, which have been cherry picked. But here's his response, and this is the thing, right? This is where you lose all the time. Racism. They lose with racism. It's really hard to keep making it make sense. It's really, really hard to keep pushing this agenda. But it's dark. You're talking about stoicism, which, for the record, big proponent of. I mean, I tried to be that guy for a long time. It just turns out I got a flair for the drums. What is stoicism, right? It was about living a virtuous life. It was about regulation of emotion, a curiosity. It was logic and approaching things in a balanced way. Nothing about this guy or the modern day yappers that see themselves as philosophers, but are actually just the losers who wrote the Old Testament because they weren't out there like living big ass lives. That's who this is. These are charlatans. I find this boring in terms of missed opportunity, really. But no, let the festivities continue. This just gets better. I promise. This just gets better.
Coming to the country.
Well, that's who lives
I don't
here.
believe that.
No, but that's what you said.
I said there was creaking pressure on public services.
No.
From the increased
but
population.
you also maybe foolishly admitted the truth. You could get arrested for this. I know the stakes are high. But you said that when the people who live in a country change, so does the culture, which is like the most obvious. It's like when it rains out, it gets wet. That's not a controversial observation, but it's illegal here because it is true. And my only point is not against, I've already said, I like the Bangladeshis better than I like the liberal whites in your country. A lot more. They've never yelled at me. I'm not attacking them. I'm just saying the things that made Britain, England. Is there still an England? I have no idea. Those are going away because there are different people living here. And if you think that those are good things in the same way that the Swedes or the Chinese or the people in Burundi and Chad, they like their culture. It's their ancestors' culture. And now it's gone. And why can't we say that's bad? Well,
nobody said that you couldn't. Do you see what's happening now? There's a lot of rhetorical devices that are being used. We don't even need to go into all of them, but it's not someone that's in control. It's someone that's constantly trying to assert it. You ever fought with a gaslighter? You ever fought with somebody or gotten into an argument with somebody who constantly moves the goalposts? And did you see how quickly he moves? So first he said, well, you're the one who said culture. Well, you're the racist, not me. You said the culture changed. And he goes, yeah, the culture's changed, the demographic changed. So what? It's evolved. That's not what Tucker wants to hear. So he's saying, no, actually, you said this. I'm just working off of what you said, but this is why you have to be so tireless. So what does he do? He starts shifting to illegality. Well, really, the problem is that you can't even say that here, right? You can't even say that here. What the fuck is he talking about? Like, this is maddening. It is someone who doesn't actually have a foundation, and so constantly has to manipulate the emotions of those around him and use their words to assert their belief system. You want to know someone who's in their bag? Make your pitch for white nationalism irresistible. Stop trying to diminish or minimize what someone's relationship is to change, cultural change, demographic change. Piers says, so what? Who cares? Why should that impact me? you said the culture changed. But yes, he also said it wasn't good. So Piers already made his point. Tucker is pushing because he's realizing that the slope he's on is as slippery as that sloped hair he's got on his forehead.
You may think it's bad.
It's good?
I love living in a very multicultural.
But you're rich. I mean, you're rich. And you go to the white parts of London, they're exactly the same as they were when I was a child. I've been coming here for 50 years. They're exactly the same. What neighborhood is saying is exactly the
Which
same.
do you think is a white part of London?
I'm not going to tell you.
Well, that's a little test for you. Which area of London do you think is white?
The one I'm staying in right now. The one where my relatives live. It's, I'm not going to say.
No, you don't want to say because you know that I'll immediately say, "Come on, there's loads of non-white people living there." There's no.
By the way, I'm not against non-whites.
There's no exclusively white.
I'm not against non-whites. But you know what that sounds like? You know what it sounds like? And being pro-black, I'm not being anti-white. It's just I'm not anti-white. And this is what they keep doing. I just want to live in a place where I am the majority. Then go live in that place. Go live in that place. But everything that's happening around the world is from and as a direct result of the very Western civilization that you claim to champion. And I promise you, right? That comment, oh, well, you're rich. And, you know, I lived around these parts. Oh, you best believe I have all the points. I don't want to make an argument several times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook with the longer ones where it's more relevant. But I did fucking catch that. I promise you I caught it. God, I got such a potty mouth these days. But babies, look what we're look who we got to listen to. Let's keep it going.
How does people think it?
But hold on. Is that really an economy? If your economy is real estate, that's London's other big economic center, is buying and selling and leasing pieces of property again and again to different people. Nothing's being created.
But that's not true. That's not true. We are creating things here. A lot of things.
Like what?
Just, I want you to think about this. So this is a moment, right, where Tucker is going to, he's already started, you aren't impacted by multiculturalism because you're rich. That's why you like it. You're not living. And so he's trying to bring that racist belief system that is so deeply embedded in American consciousness, it needs scarcely be said, right? That it is aggrieved poor white people who are being harmed by immigrants. I'm going to tell you that I agree that aggrieved white people are being harmed. I agree. It goes back to the point I made when I said our power analysis has to shift for how concentrated the power is. It means that who is marginal and how power operates is so different now. In so many ways, actually in every way, billionaires transcend race. You can literally create your experience. I'm not sure we're comprehending how much billions of dollars are. We would be living in a significantly better society in every conceivable way if that money was properly redistributed instead of hoarded by a select few, right? I'm about to say some wild shit in a few minutes, but it's important for us to know, and it's going to be good. And yes, there will be several moments of hysteria. I've got them loaded at the hip, ready to go. I'm going to let Tucker Carlson make his point, but remember, this is what it feels like and sounds like when you take American racist hysteria and try to project it out everywhere that you want to go. It's a lot harder than I think Tucker maybe anticipated going in.
Barada, okay, yeah, there's a lot of money because people from around the world stash their money here because it's a system based on fairness.
There's a lot of manufacturing, not as much as there was 80 years ago.
How much is in London, man, your biggest city, the dominant
city? I don't know the percentages, so we have to check.
Pretty much, unless you're talking about like burritos being manufactured or whatever, I don't think there's really any.
The bigger problem for us is not what economy we're doing, it's how we manage the economy.
So it doesn't matter where the money comes
No,
from?
it does. But successive governments have dragged us to a place where we have almost zero growth. Without growth, you can't have a successful, thriving country.
That's not true. Have you been to Japan? It's like the most successful, thriving country in the world. It has had no growth for a long time, not real growth. And we've gotten these lectures from the bankers for like 30 years. Japan is dying. Ever go to Japan? There are 4-year-old girls in the subway alone. There's not one speck of litter in all of Tokyo, and it's one of the biggest.
This is called an anecdotal fallacy, right? There's been several logical fallacies that he's attempted. This is an anecdotal one. Japan's economy is as if the American economy, I have so many fucking rants, and I'm trying to manage my excitement because I want you to hear the full breath so that you know when I annihilate this, that it was complete. I want completion at the end of this. That's my job. I'm a service top, babies. This is such bullshit. Like, imagine trying to assert that because something works in Japan's economy, that the same thing would therefore be true in like Britain, or the same thing would be true for America. America positioned itself as the default currency of the entire globe at the expense of the very subset of people, folks like Tucker Carlson, who's also insanely rich, claim to defend and protect. That's what's such bullshit here. You keep telling folks, telling your folks, telling young men, telling white men, telling anybody who will listen that the reason why they feel terrible and the reason why they can't figure out what's going on and with the world, why nobody feels good, why there's no opportunities. You keep telling them it's immigrants. You keep telling folks it's immigrants. You keep telling folks it's transgenders. You keep telling folks this is that. You're the rich man. You're literally seriously invested in the acceleration of American Western demise. Do you want to know why? Because you get richer faster. You get richer faster when you don't use logic, when you create logical fallacies and lies. You create accelerationism for Western decline. If you were honest, if you were true to any of the things that you claim to believe at all, you'd be honest that the number one issue, what is accelerating America's decline faster than anything else, is the concentration of wealth and power. And I don't mean, it's not just simply, oh, billionaires. It's not simply, it's the lack of investment in its own population. It's the lack of redistribution of wealth. It's the elimination of jobs. You told men that there were man jobs and that their value was connected to their productivity. And then you made the jobs that you gendered for them obsolete. Through global industrialization, you sold the powers that be. Western society, Western civilization sold out its own populace, sold out its own ancestors so that a few folks could get richer. And what did you give young people of the future when you sold them out, when you made an entrenched boomer tax and added capitalist gains to it and then made American manufacturing impossible? Because it was too fucking expensive so that a few corporations could save money by exploiting countries that were already being exploited, right? If Tucker Carlson gave a shit about any of the people, about any of the young men, or even white culture, Western civilization, this grift would stop. There would be a person at the end of this. Tucker Carlson is so far from Piers Morgan for the very simple reason that Piers has not yet betrayed logic. He's a thinking person. We saw him evolve around Palestine, right? Every single episode, and my God, he does so many, right? 6 people on, 5 people on, 1 person on. It didn't really matter. Do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? That was how Piers Morgan started this from October 7th and did it for months and months on end. And then he sat down with Bassem Youssef and they had it out. And then Piers started to say, you know what, this isn't right. And he started to say it before that. It is so essential. I don't care that Piers and I probably don't agree on most things. And he's been a little bit weird about shit. I don't care. Everybody's weird about shit. I don't agree with the whole transphobia thing because to me it has to mean I want you to not exist and I'm fucking with your rights and I'm working to do that. I know he was weird about Markle. You know? I get it. He's still a fucking weirdo. He's just someone who hasn't betrayed his humanity for a few bucks. It is hilarious to hear Tucker Carlson say, well, you're rich, you wouldn't know, when he's a trust fund kid himself. And such a factor, such a massive factor in the red herrings and scarecrows and scapegoats. Tucker Carlson was an essential actor in shepherding those out to people who wanted bread on the table and instead said, this is what took your bread. Not, it's the rich people in America, not the smallest handful of the smallest handful of the smallest handful. Even fucking Grok knows that what is accelerating Western decline more than anything in America is the unbelievable, grotesque concentration of wealth. But I'm a shush. Let me go.
12 million. It's an incredible society. It's the opposite of New York, London, Baltimore, Detroit. It's incredible. I know you've been there, and I know you've had these naughty, forbidden thoughts like, wait a second, I thought we dropped a bomb on them. How are they so great?
No. I like going to Tokyo. But
no growth. How'd they do that with no growth?
No.
I was assured by libertarian economics, if we had no growth, things would be bad. Look at this.
I like going to Japan, but I wouldn't swap it for London.
Right. Fair. You're English. That's kind of the point.
Right.
This is your homeland.
I genuinely do love London.
No, I bet you do.
When I lived in America full time, I really missed a lot of the.
I hope so. This is where your ancestors are from. I get it. Yeah. That's the whole point. That's the whole argument I'm making. It matters where you're from. The culture really matters. It's not about growth. It's not about any of this crap. It's about, am I on the same page with my neighbor? Do we have something in common? Do we have the same gut instincts about things? Those are the most important questions there are.
No, they're not. We can actually move on to the next one because it's just there again. There's this need when you are a liar or a charlatan, you have a tremendous burden of normalizing that which is illogical, that which is stupid, that which doesn't see, have, or conceive of a sense of future. Only Tucker Carlson could dismiss so casually the number one concern for everyday Americans. That's true on voter polls. That is universally agreed upon. There are no political lines drawn there. The economy is the number one concern of everyday Americans. You are telling them that it's because of the decline of white nationalism. My boy, you represent it. Stoic with that hair? With those inflections? You don't even appreciate the very things. I haven't heard anything substantive at all. But what you're seeing is how hard it is. And when you're met with just, I just like it here. Why that's important? Do you see how you actually don't need to shame the other person to make your point? I really need us to recognize this on the left. Do you get what I'm saying? Because they feed off of that. The idea that you could be offended or outraged, and then they'll use that and say, well, you're weaker than I am. I am just far more courageous. And I want to be in a place where I can say and do whatever the things that I want. But should you be saying and doing anything that you want if you're in line with your neighbor? I want to be around people who share my beliefs. I think it's so sad that in 2025, there are still people who designate themselves as intelligent that require racial myths to affirm their worldview. Go home, nigga.
This was a total destruction of your economy. So why do you think the air was polluted before?
Well,
because people were burning.
Our economy has not been destroyed. We're still one of the biggest economies in the world.
What is the economy here? What's it based on?
What do you mean?
Like what's the British economy? I look at the economy of, I don't know, Wales in 1900, and it's like, it's coal. They dig coal, people burn it. That's what their economy is. Look at the economy of Sheffield or Birmingham 100 years ago. Well, of course, it was steelmaking. What's the economy?
There's still a lot of manufacturing in the UK.
But as a percentage, your economy...
percentage of manufacturing would be a lot less.
A lot less. It's almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Right. So
we still have one
we
of
have that in common, don't we?
But what is that economy based on?
A lot of things.
Okay, what's the main one?
Well, the city is a lot of manufacturing.
That's the main one?
Well, there's a lot of technology stuff going on. There's a lot of scientific stuff going on. There's a lot of all sorts of industries.
You haven't mentioned the biggest one by far.
Well, go on.
It's lending money to people. It's banking.
Banking, yeah. Okay.
That's we're in the city of London right now.
Sure.
How many things are being made in the city of London other than
All right,
debt?
wait, pause. If y'all are not watching this, he is so red. He is so fucking red. Corey, did you know how red he is?
It's gross.
He's so red. He looks like one of those hormonal under the skin blind. What are they called? Like blind pimples. That's what he looks like. He looks like and that's what he is. He's a pimple. He's a blemish on America. That's actually what Tucker Carlson is. And you know what's so funny? I like pseudo intellectual white guys. I like the intellectual ones more, but I love the confidence, right? And of course, it's really easy to be confident when you can find people who always can affirm anything that you say and believe. I can never be right again. I can never be wrong again if I don't want to. I can find any single perspective anywhere online and then say, see, I'm right. I don't have to worry about facts or data or balance. How is this in line with anything this guy says he is? But it's just, I'm going to let him cook, but I want you to pay attention to something. He got that read for that. Why ask somebody a question you already know the answer to, right? That is, to me, a clear sign of insecurity. Why are you baiting a peer? What are you trying to trap this guy for? But it's the burden of making normal this very stupid thing that anybody with half a brain, except for, Samantha Gay got probably a quarter. So she makes, that's who belongs over there. Actually, let me just say this right quick. Tucker, you know what? Maybe let me buy into this white nationalism thing. There's a lot of dumb birds coming out of your side talking a lot. Where's your white practices? Get these birds in line. Make them read a book. And like, why am I having to listen to this? I thought y'all said that you had it under control. Where's your misogyny where's your commitment to misogyny? Tell Samantha K to go ahead and throw on her red robe and her little maiden cap and just keep it pushing. You can have that. You can live that way. These are choices that are constantly available to you every day, but you stay trying to assert these beliefs as if they're edgy and provocative, so much so that people are terrified of them and you're the man ushering the truth. No, babe, they're just that stupid. They're not interesting. And only the people who are in so much pain that they need that to feel something, only those people buy in, which makes you, honestly, not a debater, just a masturbator, bro. Keep going.
One of the financial hubs of the world. We're right in the city here.
I know we're sitting in the city of London right now, run by City Con.
But again, it's not as bad as people think it is.
But hold on. Is that really an economy? If your economy is real estate, that's London's other big economic center, is buying and selling and leasing. Elizabeth Kinney from Tranmere. Have you heard about this?
Go on.
She's a mother of 4. I think she's a nurse, and she gets beaten up by her boyfriend. He beats her up. She goes to the hospital. And she texts someone, a buddy of hers, a friend of hers, a girlfriend of hers, and describes the man who beat her up and sent her to the hospital as a, quote, faggot. It's a faggot. And she's arrested and convicted of a hate crime. The guy who beat her up is not arrested or convicted. And then she goes through this whole kabuki, which is now required, where she prostrates herself before the judge. I'm sorry, it was not a homophobic rant. By the way, you're allowed to be homophobic if you want in a free country. You can have any view you want. But no, because she used the word faggot, she's arrested, and the guy who punched her in the face was not. That story tells you everything.
Well, I don't know that story. If it's exactly
Daily Mail, baby.
okay,
Pictures of her and everything.
I'm not doubting it. I'm just saying I need to look into it. But if that is how you've told it, obviously it's ridiculous.
Would you say the word faggot on camera?
No.
Why?
Because
you don't want to get arrested, do you?
Doesn't want to be arrested.
Is it so harmful to people?
No,
is it like gay bashing? What's wrong with that?
No, actually, my whole
the need to normalize this constant need to like bait somebody into buying in. Does that sound like stoicism to you? Does that sound like security to you? I'm seeing somebody who is desperate. Like you know what this feels like? This watching Tucker Carlson, I feel such empathy for him because it feels this way trying to convince people to care about racism because we want real change in this country, like fucking over the Electoral College and the legacy of racism and slavery that's just shaping our fucking lives. And when I tell people that because I am black, well, of course you believe that. I was like, God damn it. Anything else? Anything else? He sounds like what it feels like, which, as you've heard me say, trying to convince people of the need to confront American racism for this very reason, because it has made us so easily manipulated, is like the guy, like the nigga in Costco trying to sell you a cell phone plan and you just came for some donuts, They're just like, hey, that's the desperation, except I'm so much cuter doing it. I also don't have the extraordinary burden of making a very stupid, unsatisfactory, unsubstantiated belief system and try to shove it down people's fucking throats. I just have to do good work. Yes, we have different tasks.
The issue with the whole trans debate, for example, is you don't need to slide into actually saying derogatory stuff about trans people to make the point that women's rights should be protected. You don't need to.
Well, I agree.
So what? I don't believe.
No, but it's a magic word.
I don't believe in needlessly sneering.
Well, I'm not smearing anybody. I just think.
But what would you use that word?
Faggot?
Yeah,
I just did.
Yeah, but would you
faggot?
Okay, but why?
And I'm using it because you're not allowed.
Hold on. Tucker Carlson is 56 years old. Did you guys know that? Tucker Carlson is 56 years old. Does he not sound like exactly the children that he claims to want to protect these young guys? And you want to know something? He doesn't, because I don't give a shit if you say they need outrage. Are you seeing it now? Do you remember yesterday on the Piers Morgan episode, right? And he was talking about transgenderism, and he also made a bunch of hackneyed points. I do think the setup had more to do with that. Jubilee and the whole surrounded thing is just nonsense. It's literally just exposing yourself to random thoughts on from the street without really having clarity on your own shit for some reason. Anywho, it's like being in the ring with a boxer that doesn't know what they're doing. You can't prep because there's nothing that's happening that makes sense. Anyway, Tucker Carlson is doing the exact same thing that Piers Morgan himself has done. And I want us to lock in. Go back to the Samantha K thing, right? What is the story or the word that the professor used, right, to help characterize something that didn't actually need to be characterized? It was just not good. What does it matter if the writing is offensive? That adds credence to this university putting out a statement saying that free speech needs to be protected. It's not under attack for saying stupid things, for saying slurs. It's under attack because we can't criticize the government. It's under attack because our media ecosystem is not allowed to report on what's actually happening. They're getting sued because we got judges in the back pocket. Why isn't Tucker Carlson screaming about this at the top of his lungs? If he cared about the folks he said he cared about, this would matter to him more than the ability to say faggot. Nope, I don't care. Who cares, babe? You could have said it the whole time. That's the thing. It's just that you don't have the balls to say it when it might actually count. And you could have done it the whole time, but you just don't have it. But what they are constantly waiting for is our offense, our outrage. They require it. And when we're not there, do you see how somebody has to be the woke person in these spaces? It couldn't be Tucker Carlson. So he's going to try to either get Piers Morgan to buy in or be dismissive of Piers Morgan because he simply won't, because he actually just doesn't agree or doesn't care about the conclusions. I would want a more animated person. But I'm so curious about what's going on in Piers's head. And I'm also like, do you guys know what you're doing? Do you actually know? Anyway, I just want us to hear, right? Faggot, 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 faggot. In 25 years, Tucker Carlson has never really, he's never said that online. He's never said it on air, right? Why is he doing it now? Grift. Okay, Nick Fuentes is getting play. Whoa, 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 whoa. I called him a gay little Mexican kid in the basement. He turned that into something pretty fucking awesome and took my ass to town. I brought him on my show. And what? He's more, unbridled than I am? What? It is so unbecoming, but also I feel secondhand embarrassment that a 56-year-old dude sounds like this. But it's what we need to recognize always is that our outrage, right? Our easy to anticipate outrage is exactly why we are so easily manipulated. They need our reactions. If we de-emphasized the virtue signaling and the outrage muscle for words and focused more on rights, on expanding and protecting and insulating our rights, with redistributing our means, right? Choosing how to approach things instead of like, you know what, this is going to give me the best thing that I need right now. And I just feel outraged. I need to say something, but when are we going to evolve? I don't care that this is what they do. It concerns me though, that this is all it takes for us to respond in the exact same way with the exact same blueprint. I'm hoping that we're seeing in real time the things that we have been interrogating and going through on Dark Woke, which is we have got to stop being so fucking reactive, that we're starting to really understand why.
I'm allowed to.
Go ahead.
I don't want to.
Say, I love gay people. Faggot.
I'm allowed to. I just choose not to.
This chick just got arrested for it and convicted.
Right.
So that doesn't have a chilling effect on your ability to...
There are people watching this who will be offended by the use of the word
I'm sure they
shit.
will. I'm not anti-gay. I never have been. You can use any freaking word I want.
By the use of the word shit.
Check. Okay, whatever.
Dare you be so sexist comparing women to chicks?
How about this? Let my life, the way that I actually live and treat people, be the testament to my heart. That's how I feel.
Okay. I want you to hear over and over and over again. I want to say anything that I want to say and do anything I want to do. And I believe in stoicism and kindness and treating people well. And then you're hysterical. You rely on histrionics. You're dishonest. You're dropping, like, why? Right? Because you can. Does that sound like a balanced person? Someone who just feels the impulse to do things because they can? There's a desperation. See, I'm right. In that way, him and Candace are very alike. It's so intense that even Nick Fuentes was like, what is this guy doing? He's never said these words before. And suddenly he's trying to be like, well, Nick is going to tell everybody trying to be like him. But there is something true in that. What separates Nick Fuentes to me and makes him more dangerous, and I can see that Tucker Carlson is trying it out too, but it's never going to work for Tucker because Tucker's already been bought and paid for in so many ways. It is Nick Fuentes' unabashed openness. He uses a lot of sarcasm to mitigate some of the odious things he actually believes. And he's walked back a lot of his more violent rhetoric, right? But it's the ability to just talk and say things unapologetically, right? I'm not suggesting that we need to do what they're doing. I'm asking us to change our most deeply ingrained pathways and maybe actually embody a little bit of neuroplasticity ourselves, that maybe we shouldn't take the bait. Because when we take the bait, we get caught, right? That means we're on the fucking hook. Maybe it's time that we actually started to focus on what matters most and not feed the beast and call it the work. This is fascism, y'all. We can do things differently, and I do believe we are. Last one.
There's a slight amplification of, for example, the number of Muslims in the country.
I agree.
There are nearly 4 million Muslims in the country, and that represents about 6% of the population. But 43 or 4% of the population are still Christian. So I do think, again, that the over-amplification of the Islam problem, as people put it, or the Muslim problem, has been massively overstated.
Well, that's an obviously.
Yeah.
Hate the Muslims. No, I know where that's coming from.
I don't like it.
I hate it. How is hate the Muslims better?
Right there. They're not saying the same thing. Part of what Piers Morgan is doing is actually saying with your talk of immigrants and differences and wanting a kind of ethno state. Well, why is it wrong that I want an ethno state? Is that wrong that I want it? Why don't you tell us how to get there? Right? Why don't you tell us what is your plan? What do you want to, where are you going to put black people? Where do you want to put gays and lesbians, right? What is your plan? You keep saying you're championing this idea while undercutting the economic stability and reinvestment and distribution of wealth that would allow folks to thrive in the first place. Your people, your Western culture and civilization. Oh, right after this, I'm going to go the fuck in on all the things I have been holding on to. I've bubbled over, but I promise you is because we're doing this together. But yes, Corey felt it today too, right? Like this thing where you're like, why are they so dumb? How are they winning? This doesn't even make any sense. And that's it. And that's it. We good. The only problem we got to solve is that we're not there. And it's because we beat the shit out of each other. They can't beat us. Oh, but we can. I'm going to get me some butch friends. It's over for y'all. It's a wrap. I would have to pull my testosterone back to fight Tucker Carlson. That little, what did he call Nick Fuentes? He said that gay little Mexican kid, and actually like teed up Nick to have like an awesome fucking epic moment. I know he was big mad about that, but here's the thing, baby, you barely pass as a trans man. Like you really need to get your whole shtick together. I don't understand the appeal, but it's just me. I'm gonna let this last little bit go, but I want you're starting to see the patterns. I can feel that you're starting to see the patterns. I made the case, but around language and our hysteria and why that makes us so easily manipulated. But here's why it matters. It's not, oh, we're being manipulated. That's a bad thing, right? That's too simplistic. We're not paying attention to what we need to pay attention to. What's the number one rule in any media training? And I know because, as you know, I was walking around like a little angry communist with a red book in my hand. No, I just looked like an older Chinese man. I like to, I had my hat down low and, I had to get taught that it's important to smile and use circle hands. And actually, it makes you a little bit happier. You should not do that for sad things. But this is good for the good things. Why does that matter? The number one rule in any media training, you say what you want to say. If we are reacting always, if I'm about to hit you at this point, I know y'all are going to love the rant at the end, but peep this, right? If we're always in reaction mode, that becomes our soundbite. So Black Lives Matter got nothing but hate, nothing but heat forever. They couldn't figure out what to pin on us because we were beloved in Toronto, like literally hated everywhere else. Like this is, I'm talking about the cool movement, not the 2021, which was, like it was really moving, but it wasn't cool, right? Like it was a little bit cool. I guess I'm gonna use my own definition. That's another time for another day. There are two different things. One, I just feel much more protective of because it doesn't get the respect it deserves. Anyway, they started so like the Sun, which is obviously a right wing rag in Toronto. They tried to say that we were bullies, so they kept saying we're bullies, right? And that was when we had to keep saying we're doing a peaceful protest. We're doing a peaceful protest. We had to move past racism to normalize ourselves in society. Tucker Carlson and his ilk are trying to make racism normal in society. I don't have anything against anybody on that. Anybody who talks like that, you believe in that? This guy's trying to say he's giving you diagnostics. You imagine a doctor trying to tell you that you got cancer like that? He's trying to say he's coming in to save people. I'm going to say this. You say what you want to say, because if you respond to it, we are not bullies. This is what racists say. This is so fucked up. I'm so offended. You want to know what your soundbite is? We are not bullies. Is that the story that you wanted to tell the world about what we are? It's not okay that you say you. It's especially offensive if you're saying it of marginalized communities. What have we said about our things? What we believe? We've just said what we don't believe in, what we don't think is okay. We use shame and offense. And why? Here's the more anecdotal thing that I do believe is true. Indulge me. I've earned a little bit of trust, and for all that, people are too much. I just can't get away from it. I just keep coming back. Because I kind of love us at the end of the day. No, I fucking really do. I absolutely believe in our ability to transform. I can't believe what we've been able to accomplish. Against so much of it was what we've been able to accomplish against things. Human resilience is wonderful, but here's the facts. We have got to take responsibility for normalizing our belief system. What we're not being honest about is why we go to outrage is because it's an opportunity to show the world how good we are, how much we know, what a good boy I am. I'm so brave. Oh, this might get me more followers. Fantastic. That's the thing that we're not being honest about. And you know what? I don't judge it. It makes a lot of fucking sense. Nobody is nice anymore. We're getting older. No one's saying the good things. No one's but this is where being a part of the work and being a part of something bigger is essential. So much of our lives have been rendered meaningless because of capital and capitalism and its framing. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm learning some shit about myself as I'm reading more and more on economy. I don't even know that I'm as anti-capitalist as I believe myself to be. I know that I'm anti-late stage capitalism in this iteration. But again, it's about being curious. I'm really curious about where this query goes. I can't say cook, microwave. Tucker Carlson's a microwaver. You could, that's what it seems like his hair got into anyway. But look, listen to these last little points here, and then we're going to cook.
I don't like it.
I hate it. How is hate the Muslims better than hate the Christians or hate the Jews?
It's not. It's all the same.
Not. It's the same.
Hatred is hatred is hatred.
I totally agree.
It doesn't matter who you're hating. The moment you're in the hate game, then I think you're losing whatever argument is you're trying to have.
I totally agree. I've never had an argument with a Muslim, with an actual Muslim. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm a Muslim.
Like I've never had an argument with a Muslim as another Muslim. Okay, this is. I'm gonna be so fast with this because I gotta. This is where I'm like, I'm having too much fun. I mentioned that they weren't talking about the same thing. Piers was bringing up the psyop against Muslims, largely pushed and propagated by Israel and who? Western, what? America and the UK. Weird that never came up. Those are Israel's closest allies. That's literally the America, the UK, right? And Israel versus who? North Korea, China, and Russia. But honestly, the things change. It's not even China anymore. It's Iran, Russia, and North Korea. But it's not even really Iran anymore because we have to see what the impact of Trump's deal with Saudi Arabia is and how that's going to this is what I mean. It's accelerationism. I kept thinking things might slow down, but they're not. They're going to speed up, and it's by design. I'm going to let these dummies yap, but this is just know this. Piers, I believe, was saying the psyop against Muslims in part as a rebuke and a pushback against what Tucker has desperately tried to assert, but take no accountability for. I'm not saying I hate them. I never have to be accountable to a single thing I say or do. And that is ultimately what their interpretation of free speech is. And then they say that they're kind and they're stoic. You deal in histrionics. Your hair is constantly moving because you shake so much. You're a trust fund kid whose family was in the CIA. You are exactly who designed the current reality that is so impossible for people who look like you to exist in. But by all means, say that you don't care about, and that's the thing. If we're not dealing in outrage, they don't get to say that I'm being typecast as a hate monger, I'm being typecast as a racist. I don't think it is our responsibility to care about what they have to say anymore. That's my responsibility, but that's not our collective responsibility. Our collective responsibility is figuring out what the fuck we are going to say. Free speech campaign movement in the works. It's finally happening. It's slow. Anyway, I'll let them finish, and then the most succinct rant you've heard, and then we're out.
From Bangladesh, I'm a Muslim. We probably agree on a lot. It's the secular self-hating whites that stand up from the table and leave when I'm eating with them here. And so I'm not hating on the Muslims at all. Or bad Muslims or bad everybody. I like the Bangladeshis better than I like the liberal whites in your country. A lot more. They've never yelled at me. I'm not attacking them. I think I have a lot more in common with the Pakistani cab driver than I do with the average Guardian staffer who's white.
There are lots of white people who behave very badly in this country.
Well, I've met them and they yell at me. So yes, I just for the
I live with someone I have things in common with, I have beliefs in common with. You say that you have more in common with a man of color, right, from another country who is likely not Christian, right, grew up in a place that is decidedly not the West, and you say that you have more in common with that person than you might with a writer from The Guardian. So you don't just want a white ethno state. You want to pick and choose what kinds of white people get to live there too? Do the poor ones get in? Do they get money? Are you going to give them some of it back? So curious. Rather than judge the plan, interrogate it. You see how that works?
time, I have more in common with the sincerely religious Pakistani cab driver than I do with anyone who works at the Times of London. That is just a fact. I don't like those people. I don't want to eat with them. And they're white. So all true.
There are lots of people who are non-white, who've been born and raised in this country, who've contributed brilliantly.
Well, I would never
to
deny
the
that.
success of this country, who've risen to the top positions in top industries.
I got hassled at your airport again. And
Really?
yeah, always.
Well, for being Tucker Carlson.
You know, it's like, go see the attendant. And by the way, the attendant was some Pakistani woman who's like, oh, we're so glad you're here. Which I don't think I would have gotten from the liberal white ladies.
Genuinely, have you felt threatened walking around?
No, not at all. Again, who's going to do anything? Pakistanis are all super nice to me, and the whites are all kind of craven and sad. No, you're totally safe here, man.
A lot of the other cultures that have come here actually have far more politeness.
I agree.
But there is a very lovely, quaint notion being built up in the United States, driven by people like Tommy Robinson here.
Who's Tommy Robinson?
You know Tommy Robinson.
He seems like a fraud to me.
Well, he's not even Tommy Robinson. His name is Stephen Yaxley. It's not even his real name. He's also convicted of multiple crimes, thuggery, fraud.
I don't even know anything about him, but he doesn't seem like he's that into Britain.
But all you need to know is that this was a story that Elon Musk tried to champion because, you know, he needs the white civilization in decline thing to work so he can continue to like exploit people, which I'm about to cook on. But he pushed that story. Come to find out, this person was under a pseudonym and was a very, very violent individual. This is who Elon Musk tried to champion and used all of the power he had at Twitter to make it pop. It's all about convincing people that what they want to be true is true.
Shit stirrer, right? This idea that he's driven, that we're on the verge of some sort of civil war here. Do you feel that when you walk around?
No, because that's my point. You're so passive.
But not passive. I never want this country to be a place that rejects genuine asylum seekers.
Why?
Well, because actually I believe that we have a duty to take care of people who are genuinely
How
fleeing.
about your own people?
Well, what about fleeing war-torn countries where we started the war?
getting worse. You're doing it again.
Okay, but one of us opposed the Iraq War at the time, and it wasn't you.
I've been atoning for it ever since. I was one of the worst offenders.
I led the campaign here against the Iraq War. It cost me my job in the end. I led
for you.
I led a front page assault on that.
You should stick with that. You should stick with that.
What a fucking useless time. Do you know what this felt like? It was as dissatisfying as watching Ta-Nehisi Coates and Ezra Klein talk around something instead of just saying the thing. It turns out that nobody just says the thing. Do you want to know why Nick Fuentes will always outpace a Tucker Carlson in the long run when it comes to attention? Is because he actually just says it. As fucked up as the things that he says is, he just says it. We need to be able to do that in the same way that comedians and trans comedians included needed to be able to make jokes. We need to be able to generate language and discourse, and we need to be able to make mistakes. It takes away the counterforce that they're constantly trying to normalize, because they're using our outrage to validate their belief of what is happening. But let me be really fucking clear about what is happening here. Okay. I would like to be extremely clear. Why is it that suddenly all the billionaires seem to be aligned on this hysteria and fear mongering around white nationalism and the need and the decline of the birth rate, right? Why is that suddenly so important? Why is Peter Thiel, right? That weird waxy skinned faggot, right? Why is he suddenly talking about Yarvinism and the Antichrist, right? And what it represents, and who is that? Anything that stops the deeper concentration of wealth. Why isn't Tucker Carlson constantly talking about that more than he goes, what about your people? I think it's our duty to help people. I want to be kind to people, but only the ones that I know and only the ones that believe what I believe and only the ones that look more like me, right? But I'm also not going to do anything that's going to help the people I claim to care about. Let me be really fucking clear about what this is, because these are the same folks who run around saying that men are weak, Gen Z is weak, everybody's useless. They're not taking up the charge. Tucker Carlson wants to be some sort of champion for a dated. When I'm talking about dated, I'm talking like not good anymore. He's trying to create a version of America that doesn't exist. So you got to ask yourself, who is he getting paid by? Like, what is this about? Or is it much more simple? Accelerationism is what is going to allow for an absolute pillage of America by the super rich class. I think that I don't even think when we say rich people anymore, if you're talking about a fucking actor with 20 million in the bank, you are so far off from what we're dealing with right now. I couldn't give a fuck about that. Actually, great, go ahead. We're talking about unimaginable, incomprehensive concentrations of wealth that are absolutely accelerating every awful thing. Think about what's happened since the pandemic. What happened? Disaster capitalism. Who benefited most, right? What happens when disasters aren't just organic? You have to manufacture them so that you can do the thing that you want to do. There are absolute white supremacists, Nazis, white nationalists in the Trump administration. Tucker Carlson will talk to just about anybody. Great. Whether or not he is one doesn't really matter, in the same way that it didn't matter whether or not the person that came into our fucking organizer meeting and was talking like an op and moving like an op, it doesn't actually matter whether they are or not, if they are operating and having the impact of when they need to be removed from the space until they can be identified or regulated, right? But what bothers me always, okay, this is my rant, here we go, okay? Because a lot of this shit is what my niggas is listening to, and when I say my niggas, I'm talking about just men in general, men and boys or whatever. But the ideas go long. They're clearly, these birds feel like pick-me's because they simply do not have the intellectual bandwidth to make cases or arguments or whatever. But it's also clearly having some appeal with women. So I started to listen more because, again, before we can make our arguments, we have to fully comprehend what is being asserted so that you can immediately identify what actually makes no sense. what are you saying, Tucker? And then make him clarify, and then make him tell you how he plans to do it, right? He'll say, oh, I don't know, because he won't commit to something like that. But here's the thing, okay? One of the things that kept coming up, always, we've been focused a lot on the loneliness thing. Boys are lonely, boys are in pain, young men, they're being drawn to that for this reason. I don't doubt for a second that they're in pain. You also know that I know that fucking everybody is. Oh, we don't have mentors. Isn't The Rock right there? But no, none of us, they're not here, right? You want to know why? Because we've been left behind. We've been left behind. But rather than reject the premise, I want to hear how it's being argued, right? Because I agree. I actually agree with the premise. I just don't think that it's only happening for this subset of people. I do think, though, that the subset of people, which is young men, either their disinformation pipelines are so good that everything is believable because it's being regurgitated so much, or there's an emotional need for this to be true. Both of these things are normal. I am not offended that people buy into this. It offends me that we haven't developed or put out a better story. We have got to offer each other and society, the world, a fucking story about who we are and what we believe. That's the only thing that's missing. And I don't mean some bullshit, which is like, this is our vision. I mean, literally, people deserve clean water. Every person deserves clean water. Every person deserves bread on the table. Every person deserves a job. If that's what they want to do, every person deserves space for hobbies and creation. What the fuck is the point of being alive? Here's the problem. Okay. I started to think about it. One of the things that kept coming up is the house. And, we can't afford a house anymore. And that's why. And look, I'm from the generation where the buck stopped, baby. Right. We talked about, industrialization, the entrenched boomers, capital gain tax, the globalization that bottomed out American manufacturing and really imperiled the working class of America, right? Bottoming out the middle class and then pointing to minorities while the rich got richer. What? Great. So they say it's about the house. Rather than dismiss it, I was like, let me think about this, right? Let me think about this, because they do the doomsday, the decline of Western civilization, right? The fact that these are our current pseudo-intellectuals, there couldn't be a greater cry for that. The only bigger cry for help is the work that fucking Christy Nome got done on her face. Here's what I want to tell you real fast, okay? The house. I started thinking about this, right? There's a lot of, Scott Galloway's, someone who is on our side, but spends a lot of time talking about young men. One of the things he asserted was the house. So rather than dismiss it because it doesn't suit my perspective, I'm going to go make the case. And I'm telling you, we're turning into the last couple of minutes. So lock in, babies. Here we go. So my job is to make the argument so that I can make a better argument. I can absorb that argument or I can derail that argument, but I have to understand it. So the question is, what does buying a house mean to people, right? I know a lot of millennials, it's not a priority in the same way anymore. So, and I also know that some people just don't want to have kids, that the story of this many children for this many, this was the sign of success. That, you had 2.5 children. And if we talked about this, you were a mailman, you could have your other separate family or whatever, but people were doing what they were told to do, what they were supposed to do to be fully realized beings. That was a story that this current Western society told folks. But the thing is, they were doing it and they still weren't fucking happy. Change could not have been possible without enough people buying into it. It didn't happen against wishes. It happened because too many of us said something's got to change. It's why we keep going through the same Democratic Republican cycle over and over and over again, right? It's for all that it's fucked up and for all that people are voting in weird ways. I still believe that it is from a desire for change. As much as Trump is an odious diaper baby, in so many ways, I understand emotionally the need for change. So what do houses mean now? Why do they keep talking about the collapse, right? So I thought about it. And then I started to do some research. So Northwestern did this other shit with an institute. It's got a weird name. It's on my laptop. I don't know where my laptop is. Here it is. I'll tell you it in a second. But basically, what they did was they studied whether or not people's ability for home ownership had any major impact on, and what impact it had on them emotionally, right? So, I'm a nerd, so that fascinated me. Here we go. The Center for Network Dynamics. I was like, weird, but there's a great paper out there. They did it in conjunction with Kellogg as well. Understanding booms and busts in housing markets or whatever. That's another study that was referenced for this. But this is what I want you to know, okay? What the researchers found. They did research from back in the day. They followed it here. Owning a home, right? It was the hope of home ownership that affected how people worked, how they consumed, how they invested. What's happening isn't simply, oh, well, people can't buy a house anymore and men need that. No, it's bigger. And this was so revelatory for me because I found the language that I needed. We're experiencing hopelessness, and not hopelessness like we live in this fascist society, we're never going to get out. No, hopelessness like we're not experiencing real progress in our lives as a society, and from the vast majority of us as individuals, because the benchmarks for progress, the story that was given, are gone. Or that actually the things that made our lives substantive and meaningful have been actually pillaged from us by the barren class. Okay. It's about hope. It's about the idea that we're alive and we're going to see growth and shifts and progress. And they took that away. That's what we're experiencing. It's not, well, they can't buy a house, so that's why we're not having children. No, it's not that. It's simply that we are all people. And in the loss of hope and possibility, nihilism and charlatans ride that wave and say, this is why you feel the way you do. And this is what fucking pisses me off. Okay. This is what gets me. So we have empirical data, something that Samantha K has never heard of in her fucking life, right? All these guys do, the Tucker Carlsons and the ilk, right? They judge Gen Z, they judge millennials, they judge those of us who say, hey, you actually are exactly the reason why America fucking sucks right now. Because your protection of the billionaire class and the refusal to redistribute wealth is precisely how we got here. That's why you're doing 18 jobs and you don't got nothing going on. We're not being able to buy houses. And it's not because the house, it's what the house is a metaphor for. So here's my fucking take. What are we seeing right now, right? Gen Z is getting blamed. Young men are getting blamed. Everybody's getting blamed. That is not a boomer. We're judged, right? Oh, clip farming, crypto gambling, right? We got OnlyFans and third-party product peddling, right? These are not the failings of Gen Z or young people. This is the rational response to a system that has utterly failed us as a whole. It is entrepreneurship and agency in the face of uncertainty and instability, right? So no, Gen Z is not lazy and entitled and overly sensitive, right? You told men, these are boy jobs and these are girl jobs, but then you rendered the boy jobs obsolete. And you spent so much time denigrating actual good work and labor and administrative work, nurse work, et cetera, things that actually require expertise and years of commitment and honestly, great economic gains. And in fact, some of those economic gains happened because men came in and said, oh, you can't pay us that. Right? You sold out the population of people you claim to care about. And what do I mean? Who am I talking to when I say you? The billionaire class, the charlatans like Tucker Carlson, right? The ones who say, here's the straw man. It's immigrants and transgenders and Black people and Muslims who have made it so that you don't recognize your culture anymore. No, the right media ecosystem and the billionaire class are working in cahoots so that you're so focused on the straw man in front of you that you're not paying attention to the pickpockets at your back. But we're actually beyond that. They can't pickpocket that. They have accumulated so much wealth that they absolutely must own the government that generates and creates money in of itself. and then dismantle it so that there is no end to the pillaging. Western society, Western civilization is not in decline. Western society is not in decline because of immigrants. Western society is in decline by design. What made Western civilization, I have a lot of criticisms of it, the same way that I do capitalism and the same way that I do anything else. We're full of contradictions. I love America. I had to really think about that. I obviously can't stand the grotesqueries and the exploitation, but my God, do I love being in the middle of the ring. I love a good fight. More than that, there are a few places in the world where I can make a career out of doing this work. I couldn't do that anywhere else as it stands, right? I fucking love Greek mythology. I love reading about the fucking Roman Empire. I love Stoicism so much. I tried to be it, and then I told y'all I'm just I'm like an unrealized theater kid, but not a no. But I like them. There are a lot, but I like them. That's not the point. What we're talking about, Western civilization, all these things. When you get pandemic profiteering, an incomprehensible amount of wealth concentration, right? When you have pseudo intellectuals, when you keep hanging up straw men while absolutely pillaging from the working class to build more wealth, and then hanging straw men for regular folks to blame, we're not the only ones being manipulated into outrage. In fact, we're not even the most egregious ones. It saddens me that people are so easily manipulated. It's not a fault of theirs. It is okay that we need to live meaningful, purposeful lives. More than that, it is essential. That's what makes our lives worth living, isn't it? Art, creation, change and shift, and neuroplasticity. You want to know how you have neuroplasticity? Different languages. You want to talk about Western civilization being changed? Western civilization created the colonial patterns we live in now. It was a different superpower before. It was England. It was the UK. It became America post World War II, right? That's partly when they made themselves the default, currency in the world, right? And we're able to do so. But let's just, what is this? Do you want to know why I'm oversimplifying, but indulge me. A major factor for why the Roman Empire fell was it was constantly trying to accumulate more and more and more and expand more and more and more. Growth for the sake of growth is the logic of cancer. That is true of billionaires, and that is true of late stage capitalism. And people like Tucker Carlson are simply the very same cell with the very same talking points that we've seen generation after generation after generation. You want to know what evolution is? Courage. You know what courageous people don't need to do? Peer pressure folks into buying into some bullshit story that isn't even compelling. But it's compelling enough to a small subset of folks that are very mobile and vocal. Imagine, we are the best storytellers I know. Because I shouldn't even like you. You shouldn't even like me. You were literally indoctrinated to believe very specific things about me and I you. We're not supposed to be together. And for anyone that keeps pushing this idea that togetherness is the problem because of some flimsy reality of a fucking fluke of melanin. Pathetic. Sad. Even fucking Rick knows that. Rick and Morty reference. Does that sound like higher learning? Do you want to know why people weren't running around saying faggot and this and that? Because It got hacked. Do you want to know what that means? Tucker Carlson is a hack. I can't believe that you're still trying to make edgy this shit that hasn't been edgy since fucking 3-4 years ago. You think we're worried about the word faggot right now? People cannot feed their children, you fucking loser. But by all means, don't talk about ICE, right? You want to talk about free speech when people are literally sweeping up Americans even? I don't know what you're a champion of, Tucker Carlson, but I can tell you this, and the folks like you're not a champion of working class people, not a champion of white men. You're not a champion of young men. You're not a champion of anyone. You're a fucking silver-tongued charlatan, a trust fund baby who is exactly the power system. And you have every interest in seeing the kinds of accelerationism that come from hysteria, that come from hatred, to keep us focused on each other so that the wealthy can continue to get more rich. It's that simple. That's it. But I'm going to tell you something, the left. As long as we keep using identity as a weapon, it will also be used as a weapon against us. That's what we need to fucking understand. So I love you all so much. I really appreciate you doing this with me. I don't even know, like, this went on too much. I don't know. Poor Corey. I don't know if we're going to have an episode tomorrow. I'll touch base, but this was long and good and you've indulged me, but I hope you can feel that we back. I want to tell you this. This is not an easy time. This is not an easy time. For a little while, I lost the desire to make it, the purpose of it was hard because I couldn't see the forest for the trees. That's our gift. We always see the trees. Always. Let's continue. What the fuck? This is the only thing I want you to count on. We always see the forest. We always see the forest. That's it. They will continue to dangle the lowest hanging fruit. We're the storytellers. We're the artists. We're the painters. We are the defenders of free speech and free artistic expression. I know this is an impossible time, but if I can get that lesbian work the artist way, you can go ahead and write you that little poem that you've been putting off. You can go ahead and write you that little story. You can go ahead and write that article or that essay, right? You can call up that friend that you've been putting off. Oh my God, I got to take that advice. We have got to keep fucking living because fascism is accepting death and stagnation. Only a liar can tell you that the reason why you're unhappy is the responsibility of someone else. We should never believe anyone who tries to pull that shit. That's the removal of agency, and that's when you end up needing a constant supply of them telling you what to believe, which is exactly what so much of the manosphere does. I don't think it's all intentional, but that subset of white nationalists, they're invested in exploiting your pain. But what happens is you have to keep generating the conditions for it to keep getting rich. And while you consume this, what's happening for our folks, right? What's happening for the people who are consuming that content? Are their lives any better? What's the plan what's Tucker's plan? He doesn't have one. He doesn't need to. The plan is to keep making money off of your pain while you are in pain, working tirelessly, never making money. I really believe in us and I believe in you. And I'm really excited for what we're going to do. I'm really excited for who we will become when we're needed the most. And that time is coming. I love you. Make some shit. Write about it. Where are my comments? Shout out to Corey. Shout out to you. Love you. Talk soon.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.